As we see, this is an example of how we look at the soil on the side and looking at the root system of a plant. Okay, so what we do, we've got a soil moisture probe here. This is one of our drill and drops. And what we do is we do multi-level sensing. So with the drill and drop probes, every 10 centimetres, no matter whether it's a 30 centimetre probe, you only have three separate sensor locations, all the way down to a 120 centimetre probe, which has 12. So no matter which probe you get in the drill and drop range, they all have a sensor every 10 centimetres. Now you can have three options in that sensor. You can have what we call, soil moisture, which is what everyone's really interested in. We also have temperature, but the addition, which costs a little bit more, and check with Bikram on the extra price, but we have our volumetric ion content, or our VIC sensor. Now, my recommendation is to use the VIC sensor for you guys, particularly in this climate. And why do I say this? Because of your rainfall, and I'm going to explain that in a few slides' time as to why I'm suggesting the VIC sensor in this particular region. Well, I actually recommend the VIC sensor in all regions, but it's going to be particular value to you guys here. So as we can see, we've got soil moisture every 10 centimetres, and this is how we start understanding your soil moisture through your profile. This data there, depending on the telemetry, goes up to our Iramax Live or desktop versions, and there's a range of other methods that data can then be portrayed. And I understand there's some integrators here, so you potentially have your own platform and your own method of analysing that data, and we can assist with all that as well. Okay, so this is a basic graph, what we call a sum graph in Iramax. When we first put a probe in the ground, we recommend just put it in the ground for a couple of weeks and tell the grower to keep irrigating like he normally does. Because what we need is a little bit of data to understand what's happening in the soil profile. So we can't just put a probe in straight away and expect to understand everything in 5 minutes. We need a little bit of data to understand what your soil is doing. So this is what we call a summed graph, and what we're seeing here is, so this is a moisture graph from 10 to 100 centimetres. So this is a 1 metre. Now 1 metre is not a drill and drop, it's an EnviroScan in this example, which you'll see there we've got an EnviroScan demo at the back. But it really doesn't matter which type of Sentek probe you're using, the data is displayed the same way. So what we've got here, so now this is the total sum of moisture in a metre of soil. So as we can see, as things dry out, there's an irrigation, dries out, another irrigation. We also see, so this is here on the y-axis is a total number, and then at the bottom axis we have the dates. Now, what we also see here, we've got irrigation events, and we can include irrigation into Iramax, and we also have rainfall events. So if you have an existing weather station or information that you gather environmental data on your farm, most likely we can bring it back into Iramax, and there's ways through the cloud to do that, and our team back in Adelaide assists with all that happening. What else this graph's showing is not only this irrigation, but we start seeing this stepping here. Why do we think, I'm going to open it to the floor, anyone know why we're stepping? What's going on with these steps? So what's happening in the soil here, every time we see this drop, and then a flat line and a drop and a flat line, every time we see this water moisture moving out of the profile, this is actually the plant drinking and using water. So each one of these steps show moisture used by the plant, and this is moisture use in the whole metre of soil, because it's a sum, it's what they call of everything. So what we see as the soil moisture increases with an irrigation, we get some drainage, that's why it's a little bit of a down. So for example, with drainage, you can see how this is still draining out of the profile until we get down here where the line flattens out a bit. Then they've irrigated again, and the same thing. This shows us why we have the step. This is the day. And then no stepping at night. The reason for that is because plants transpire and photosynthesize only in the day, right? So it's got to be sunny for the plants to work. That's how plants work, through photosynthesis with the reaction from the sun through the leaf and the chlorophyll to create energy, which you and I can't do. So what we see, wrong one. So what we see is the stepping between night and day, and this is important to understand the stepping between day and night and why it steps. Okay, so we're also looking here at evapotranspiration. Like I said, we can bring a lot of stuff into Iramax, and we talked about the meteor blue earlier. So what we have here is evapotranspiration, so how much moisture is the sun taking out of the ground or the earth each day. It all varies between the amount of sunlight you might have or rainfall. So on a rainy day, you don't lose much evapotranspiration or none sometimes. And then on a really sunny, hot day, you can lose lots. Now, this all affects how the plant grows and how the plant works because it needs more water on a higher ET day. We see here 6.26 millimeters of ET, and we have quite a large drinking step. Then we look here, a third or nearly half the evapotranspiration and a much smaller step. And then again here, similar smaller steps, and again higher and larger steps. So really what I want to show you here is that there is a direct correlation between evapotranspiration and what your plant's doing and how much moisture it's using.
So is it that
Just ask the question.
So what is the proportion of
I want to get that salt out of my active root zone. I want to push it down. So again, it's one of those tools to help you grow better plants, understand where your fertilizer is. And in this climate, for example, let's say we put the fertilizer on, we had a big rainfall event, and we know my active root zone say in the top 30 centimetres, but the fertilizer's at 40 and 50 centimetres. My roots aren't going to get it. They're going to miss the fertilizer because the big rainfall event pushed it down. So this is where, as a grower, you might say, I want to put a bit more fertiliser on because I know my roots have missed out on it. The plant's not going to get it and I want it to grow. So we might put a bit more fertiliser on. And it's also, I think, in this climate, we can use it. So rather than maybe putting big applications and say granular fertiliser on, you might be able to apply less, more frequently, and then monitor it through your profile. So you're always keeping your fertiliser active in that root zone. All right, so here we go back to our 2D dimensional graphs. Now these can't be done on Iramax live. You can do them, but it's image by image. This is actually done through Iramax desktop, but the results are the same. And what we're showing here is basically time and depth. So again, we've got so what we can see is how the water's moving not only down the profile, but also across the profile. And remember with the colours, the bluer is the wetter and the redder. The bluer colour is more wet and the redder colour is more dry, with sort of green being somewhere in the middle. And again here it varies on the percentages down the side. So here at the end we've got 4% being quite dry of the profile. So this number here is 4% of this whole profile. And ideal, we've got 81 and 15% is a little bit wet. So it gives you a visual on how do we actually perform in our profile. How does it actually look, not only down but across? Remember, this is actually showing us not what's only happening down but across the profile. So we can actually see how far our drip and our water is going out. Same example on the other one, on the other side, except I'll just go back to make it work again. On the other side, we can see volumetric ion content. So again, we look at how salts are moving through the profile. So the higher the number, basically the saltier it is. And we can see how, same location, and how the salts are moving through the profile. Again, this is just another way to visually understand what's happening under your soil profile. Okay, so here we have another example. Now this one here was done in a cornfield on part of one of our trials, and we had probes every metre out to 80 metres, and is that right? No, I think it was a probe every metre for 20, I think we had 25 probes, so we had about 25, 30 metres of probes, and I just pulled some of the data out to show you, and this was under a pivot, and you can actually see how different irrigations are affecting, or the irrigation's affecting the soil profile. You can see now how it's drying out, we've had an irrigation, and we can probably make a few assumptions that looking at this, we're maybe not getting as good irrigation uniformity as we could, particularly somewhere in here we might have a blockage because it's red. So again, it's another tool to help you understand your soil profile. You may not use all these tools, but these are the things that over the last sort of 15 odd years that we've developed as part of Iramax. Here what we have, again, another one of these features that our senior software engineer Selwyn's developed. This is to give you, again, a visual understanding of the soil. Again, the colours are the same. Blue is wetter, red is drier, but this here is showing us what's happening here. So we can see here the irrigations are correlating, and the depth, and we also can see it's drying out higher in the profile, and down the bottom it's actually greener or moister than the top. And then we look at the graph, and the graph's telling us exactly the same numbers. So it's another way of understanding how the plant's performing. So here in this example, this is a much better one because you can see at these levels it's quite dry. But we have a look at our growth, our irrigation chart, and we can see these are really good irrigations. And we look at our root activity graph, and we can see based on these irrigations, we're not getting any water down deep. So this graph is showing us we're irrigating the active root zone, letting it dry down here, and whatever's happening down here is drainage or accumulation of moisture from the top profile. But pretty much not wasting water is what it's showing. So I'm going to talk about, how's my time going?
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so here we're going to talk about processing tomatoes. This was a study that we did in Italy a few years ago, but it has some really cool insights. So it was based in the north and the south. We had probes in both locations, and what we did was we had probes also in the control and in the treatment. The control was basically irrigated as per farming practices of that farm, and the Sentek irrigated, or our treatment was irrigated using the soil moisture graph and understanding the full points and refill points. Here we go. This is the irrigation management graph that was developed for that site. So the control, farmer-driven irrigation, we can see lots of over-irrigation, quite high. And then we look at the Sentek. And remember, this was a grower that was just starting to use Sentek, and you'll find the same thing. It's hard for them to stop watering how they will have the three-pronged probe, right? So you've got to dig the hole, stick it in, dig a bit more and put it in. The problem with that is everywhere you're digging, all right, you might dig the hole and push it in and say, oh, we're not disturbing the soil, but the problem is everywhere you've dug out, the soil's softer, and it will actually collect more moisture and potentially show a higher moisture level than you actually have. So these are all part of the things that you need to think about with the Sentek. And Sentek, because we've been around for 34 years, we've always looking at new ways to try and understand and maintain that soil moisture so you have the best results. And this is why Sentek developed the dry installation, and this is why we patented that. No one else can use it in our method, and that's one of our best characteristics, not our best, but it's one of the key characteristics compared to our competitors that they cannot do. And like I said, it creates that extra moisture or potential for extra moisture. Like I showed with the cup example, it becomes wet and it stays wet. You don't have instant data. The whole idea of the drill and drop is that we can get data very quickly. and it's instantaneous, and it's correct, and it's based on that soil type. That cover it, Nigel? Any other questions? Anyone else want to know?
Hello. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mok from Malaysia. I have just one question. I think it's more on the raster, the 2D diagram that you show on the coloring of the water movement of the array where how the water flows through. So I'm wondering that do you all have a version where it shows the root activity?
No, I don't. It's a really good one. I like that. That's a good one. Well, I will put that down on our list and I'll discuss it with our software engineers. So what you think you'd see the root activity and... Yeah, interesting.
Because you are showing the movement of the water in representative of colors. So I'm thinking if you can show, not the root activity, you are showing the water movement. So in terms of cm or mm or percentages movement regards to the array that we installed, right?
Yeah.
So in another way, if we can show the root activity based on the depth and the distance from the irrigation, so maybe we can find a way to explain to our customers where to put the fertilizers and so on. Where is the active root zone particularly?
So if you want to use it for active root zone to explain it to your customers, I'd be using the root activity in a stacked graph. The 2D visualization is probably not the best thing to use for your end customer. It's something to show them if you want to develop it, to say, oh, look how your water's moving. It's just another feature. But if you're going to apply for fertiliser, I'd be looking at root activity, and I'd definitely be looking at volumetric ion content, so we can monitor depth of root activity, so then we know we maintain the moisture or the irrigations to that depth, and then we correlate with the second pane volumetric ion content, and as you apply the fertiliser, you see the increases, how deep the increases are, and then as they trend off, you can either apply more or not based on your plant or your production plan. So I would use both of them. I wouldn't use the 2D for fertiliser. Somebody can show them. Look, I don't even know why it was developed. I know it's been developed for a little while, but to me it's just another tool to show you. And we put these together just to show you guys some of the extra features that are there. But if I was a consultant, I probably wouldn't use that to explain fertiliser depth and application to my client. I'd use the root activity, irrigation depth and volumetric ion content in stacked graphs, not some. Okay. But we can do more of this either training through the Iramax or through Bikram. And that's the other thing before I finish up. There's opportunities going forward with helping you guys out as far as understanding Iramax, how Iramax works, some of these more technical understanding on what's going on with the probe, because everywhere's different. So I suppose the thing you all need to know is that you've got the team at Sentek, even though we're not always here, but we're on a Zoom, we can be emailed, there's a contact process, working through Bikram that we can assist you with questions and whatever. Anything to do with Sentek and Iramax, we're available to assist.
All right, if there is no more questions, please give a round of applause to Mark. Thank you. Always a treat hearing from you, Mark.
Thank you.
So, I know everyone is hungry, but there are two small things we need to do before we go for our lunch break. First up, everyone knows that we at Sentek and Galcon have organized a dinner at 6 p.m., 7 p.m? 7:30, right? Is anyone not coming? It's an 8-course meal, free drinks, first one free drink, don't go too crazy on that. So who is not coming? Because I was assuming everyone is coming. Right, okay. So everyone is coming, yeah? Alright, good. I'm glad to hear that. Now, the second thing, if you remember, I had spoken about the feedback forms. So, if you look at your agenda list, please scan the first option, which is the QR code for agronomy and R&D. And I would like you guys to spend some time filling it out. Like I said, it's essential that we hear from you what you guys thought about Mark's presentation. Does the aromatics life and agronomy aspect suit your customers' need? And we can get